The Dallas Mavericks are 9-9 and have won 7 out of their last 9 games. It's been an incredible stretch with wins over the Warriors, the Celtics, and a 50-point win against the Jazz. Let's take a look at 10 things you may have missed over the Mavericks' last few weeks. Luka can score in a variety of ways, but one interesting development has been his post-up game. In his first 14 games, Luka averaged less than 1 post-up attempt per game, but in his last 4 games, he's averaging just under 3 post-up attempts per game. A post-up game fits Luka's offensive personality perfectly because of his height, his playmaking ability, and his touch around the rim. The Mavs especially took advantage of this against the Celtics when Luka could take advantage of Kyrie Irving on the block. The Mavs released their new City Edition jerseys to a weird Thursday night concert that featured Big Sean.
Franchise, man, you know what I'm saying? I be throwing my D's up. You know what I'm saying? I'm repping that Detroit, but I got love for Dallas. I'm repping Dallas.
Cool. Most people hated them, but since their release, the Mavs have won 6 of their last 7 games and are 3-0 when they wear these jerseys. Basically, they should just probably never take them off. Last season, the Mavs experimented with a lineup that consisted of Barea and Dennis Smith Jr. Some really smart people on a really good podcast suggested that this could be a conscious decision for the Mavs to try and prep Dennis in case the Mavs added another playmaker in the offseason. Last season, DSJJ played 395 minutes together in 54 games. This season, they've only played a total of 5 minutes together across 5 games, so essentially, they've only played together on accident. Also, 7 times out of the 15 times that they've both been active, Dennis and JJ's minutes have added up to exactly 48 minutes. Rick Carlisle seems to have completely abandoned playing Dennis Smith Jr. and JJ Barea together. Last season, the Mavs had an incredible bench lineup that featured Dirk and Dwight Powell. But with Dirk out, Maxi Kleber has stepped into his role with this bench unit, and the two have barely missed a step. Dwight and Maxi have the best offensive rating, defensive rating, and of course the best net rating of any two-man lineup on the Mavericks. And the duo ranks 9th in the entire NBA in net points per 100 possessions within two-man lineups. This combination is just working. Maxi Kleber has been a block party this season, doubling his blocks per game from last season. He's leading the Mavs and is 19th in the NBA in total blocks. And among players that have played less than 350 minutes, he's just 2nd in total blocks behind Mitchell Robinson of the Knicks. Then, Dwight Powell is a PER dream. Dwight is 20th in the entire league in ESPN's Real Plus Minus and 9th in the NBA in ESPN's Defensive Real Plus Minus. This lineup is just a stellar combination. Unless he hadn't proven it to you already, JJ Barea is a ball-handling, screen-slipping, pick-and-roll defensive slicing wizard. He's listed at a hilarious 6 feet tall, but I've stood next to him and he's barely 5'10". I'm 6'3", and it's jarring when you're literally looking down at an NBA player. But, like many players his size, he can really do some incredible things.
JJ,
again!
That's his strength, that's what he does best.
And Barea, that's what Barea trying to get it to DeAndre Jordan and settle drive around Looney and float it up and in.
And speaking of jarring developments, DeAndre Jordan is shooting 78.1% from the free throw line this season. Rick Carlisle even selected him to shoot a technical free throw attempt.
At 20, Barnes at 20 early.
I mean, he missed it. Still, after the game, Carlisle was asked why he picks Jordan to shoot the shot, and he said that DJ was their best free throw shooter besides Salah Mejri, who was 2 of 2 from the line. And at the time, he was right. Jordan was shooting 80.3% from the line, and the next highest player in the Mavericks was Wesley Matthews at 79.5. Those figures have essentially flipped, but at least for a solid week in November, DeAndre Jordan was statistically the best free throw shooter on the Mavericks. Before the season, the stretch of games that the Mavs are currently enduring looked impossible. Starting November 6th through December 8th, the Mavs would face the Wizards, Jazz twice, OKC, Golden State, a healthy Memphis team, the Celtics, the Rockets twice, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Blazers, and the Pelicans. So far, the Mavs are 7-2 in this stretch of games, and for some reason, many of these teams are just in complete and utter chaos. The Wizards are a griping, flailing mess. The Jazz lost 4 out of their 5 games after a 50-point loss to the Mavericks. The champion Warriors are verbally slapping each other and lost 4 games in a row, including a loss to the Mavericks. And the Celtics have lost 8 out of their last 12 games when they got beat by the Mavs. The Mavs took care of business in those games, but it's interesting that the Mavs played and beat all those high-drama teams in a 2-week stretch. Speaking of that 50-point beatdown of the Jazz, since it's too early in the season, it's kind of crazy how much that single game skews the Mavs' defensive stats. The Mavs' current defensive rating is 107, and that ranks 8th in the NBA, but if you take out that 50-point Jazz win, their rating drops to 109.4, and with it, their ranking would plummet to 19th in the entire NBA. In that game, the Mavs defensive rating was 67.3, which is the single best game defensive rating in the entire league this season by over 10 points. There are only 2 teams in the NBA that have 5 players averaging 1.5 or more made threes per game this season, and that's Dallas and Minnesota. Dallas has Luka Doncic, Harrison Barnes, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dennis Smith Jr., and Wes Matthews, while Minnesota has Karl-Anthony Towns, Derrick Rose, Andrew Wiggins, Dario Saric, and Robert Covington. 2 of the Timberwolves' 5 were acquired in a trade, and Dario isn't averaging 1.5 threes made while on the Timberwolves, but he is for the season. Since the beginning of the season, when he was getting absolutely harassed online for his shot selection, Wes Matthews has really reined in his post-up and drives per game. In his first 8 games this season, Wes was averaging 15.3 field goal attempts per game, and in his last 6 games, he's only averaging 9 field goal attempts per game. He's taking 6.3 less shots per game than he did at the beginning of this season. 2.4 of those attempts are post-ups. Wes was averaging 4.5 post-up attempts per game, but recently that's dropped to 2.1 attempts. And 3.3 of those attempts are drives. Wes was averaging 6.1 drives per game to start the season, but in his last 6 games, he's only driving 2.8 times per season. Wes's shot selection really felt like it was headed for a course correction, and it really has, with Harrison Barnes now fully back in the lineup and Luka Doncic taking the reins. Okay, so I highly doubt anyone actually missed this moment of the Mavs win over the Celtics, but here it is. Luka Doncic steals an outlet pass intended for Jalen Brown. Luka drives to the baseline and gets both Al Horford and Kyrie Irving to bite on his kind of fake. Markieff Morris also runs over to Luka and leaves DeAndre Jordan wide open for an easy dunk. Then, Luka whips his head around to say something or respond to something Kyrie Irving said, and Luka and Jalen Brown collide and Luka ends up on his back. If you look at this other angle, Luka is obviously not looking, and Jalen appears to slide over and dip his shoulder into Luka. Then Luka gets up, and there's a lively discussion about the whole thing. Jalen gets assessed a technical, and the Mavs go on to win. Apparently, Celtics media didn't exactly agree with this call, so here's the Celtics broadcast on this moment.
So Doncic's looking back at Kyrie right there. Oh, it's not
that's nothing.
Yeah, it wasn't like he took him out.
Then, Mark D'Amico, the Celtics official content manager, had this to say on Twitter. Doncic was just talking smack and staring someone down instead of looking up court, and he ran right into Jalen Brown. Yet Doncic is upset. Was Brown supposed to get out of Doncic's way because he wasn't looking? Jalen was assessed a technical. That's embarrassing. Alright. Cool. Comment below if you think Jalen initiated the contact or if you think Luka should have been looking at where he was going. And thanks for watching this edition of 10 Things. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, follow me on Twitter @NickVanExit, and subscribe to the Locked On Mavericks podcast wherever you get your pods. Thanks for watching. Boom. The Dallas Mavericks are 9-9 and have won 7 out of their last 9 games. It's been an incredible stretch with wins over the Warriors, the Celtics, and the Jazz.